If you don't one shot, you don't know your class.
Crazy, bro. Alright. This is a react video from season 2 Metaplex, first week, early choices from IZEN, 20 hours ago.
Check what the community. For today, we have the first impressions of the release of Season 2. Because for today, it's been almost 4 days now of the season for NA and about 3 days for EU. So we have enough to check what the community, the player base has been doing right before the weekend, especially given what we were expecting before the release of the season in our predictions, to see if what was expected ended up, being subverted at the release of the season. Maybe there were some specs that ran under the radar. Maybe there were some specs considered to be much stronger that for the moment are not being played a lot, for example. Now, the spot where perhaps we had the least worry about, the least contention about, was the tanks. This was, well, the prediction before the season was even out. We said very likely, given how things were going in the PTR, Blood Death Knight was going to be the most powerful tank and the one primed for being the meta tank of the season, at least for now. So, season comes out, a few days go by, and for now, in Mythic Plus, this is still holding true. In terms of tanks, Blood Death Knight has been comfortably the most played tank.
Bro, it's almost double prop paladin. Kind of insane, right? Thank you for the heart me. Thank you for the heart me, Eddie Man, and the share. Thank you for the heart me, Patrick. That's crazy. And then freaking Guardian Druid is literally half of that. So each tank is half.
Then we mentioned that likely Prot Paladin was going to be the second best.
Oh, you're not going to see the full video, you guys, unless you go to Twitch. Because I'm just recording a video, by the way. So, my bad.
The closest one to
see it well
Blood DK, mostly due to being also the strongest tank in the PTR before Blood Death Knight was buffed and also before Prot Paladin was being nerfed. So overall, for now, the popularity at the release of the season is respecting what was expected in the PTR. There don't seem to be any problems either in terms of conflict of interest. Sometimes it's unlikely, very unlikely to see multiple specs of the same class to become part of the same comp. And right now, with Blood Death Knight being meta, we didn't expect to have either Frost or Unholy as one of the potential main picks for DPS. So Blood had its open road ahead for becoming the meta tank right now. Now, the next point is where we start to see a little bit more the effects of the early part of the season, when players right now, most players right now, are worried about doing 10s, possibly 12s for max crests, but in general just getting gear from Mythic Plus. We're still not talking about pushing high keys. So our prediction when it came to healers, based on how specs were doing in the PTR and the potential power level, then we put Holy Paladin high up next to Shaman, and then followed by Preservation and Mistweaver, and then lower down the other healers. Now, the biggest contention when it came to high-level keys between Holy Paladin and Resto Shaman was the idea that Holy Paladin was going to be the meta healer for the generic standard caster / most popular specs comp, and meanwhile, Resto Shaman was going to be the pick practically for all of the melee comps. What used to be the space for a Mistweaver Monk as the deliverer, for example, of the physical damage debuff in your group, ever since we had the swap in Season 1 of Brewmaster Monk being replaced by Guardian Druid. You also swapped the healer to Mistweaver Monk to still bring this buff, for example, and even then the combo stayed the meta, even for the non-physical comps, because in Season 1 Guardian Mistweaver was the combo for basically all groups. In Season 2, the expectation would have been for Resto Shaman to take the spot in the physical comp, which you can also see right now, obviously being very flimsy very early on in the season. Technically, the high
17 Feral Assassin arm, and then it's red and 16 with Shadow Priest maybe, or Assassin, Outlaw. Damn. Okay. With Blood DK most of the time. 100% Brew on the 17. That's crazy. Brews are gonna drop off there, right? Like that's like the highest.
That's actually bothered to
I don't know.
Keys right now is a Shaman, Brewmaster, Arms, Assassination, and Feral physical damage comp. So in terms of total logs, Holy Paladin is very slightly ahead of Resto Shaman, but they're practically even next to each other. Now, likely this will potentially tether out the deeper you go into key levels, because in general, Resto Shaman is a popular
I need to
spec,
gear my
and
resto
also
today.
it's quite simple to play in Mythic Plus.
The
It doesn't
resto is
require
gonna be
you
the
to,
best.
for example, like Holy Paladin, specifically target players. You put down Healing Rain, heal everyone. You put down Chain Heal, heal everyone. It is a very consistent spec. It's very reactive. It's very comfortable to heal with. It is
Hell yeah,
likely
that'd be
that
fire.
this evenness
I'm gonna gear a little bit. I'm
eventually
gearing
will
my
have to
PvP
split
too.
out as you start going
You want to
higher
join us in PvP?
keys. It's
Magic?
unlikely you will continue to have
Up to
two healers very
293,
high up
hopefully
next to each
300
other
plus.
in popularity.
Nice.
But for now, at the release of the season, both specs are being considered even. Now, when it comes to the DPS picks, at the very least, the simplest choice.
B? We're B, bro.
What are you guys working on?
Holy Beastmaster. Bad marksman. Damn, they're like afflictions. Horrible. Wow. But this is just 12 and shit. It's all without like set and stuff. That's crazy. I thought Reddit would be high right now.
At the very, very top have been easily correct, because when we were
They were
predicting
promised
the
meta and
potential
got hit
comps,
hard.
the potential meta
Yeah.
specs when it came to the DPS, Arms and Arcane were the simplest answer before the release of the season, and we have been seeing that
Red's
now,
getting a buff
Arms
again,
and Arcane
apparently,
are indeed
on their
the
set.
most played specs. Not just
Red's the third.
at
Red's the third play. 227k. Arcane 420k. 303k on Arms. Red's third. I made a good choice. I guess when I was younger, fucking one trick and Red.
key levels, but even now in the very first few higher level keys in 14 to 16
I guess.
range,
You said
which we
you
have
might
no
need a
reason to
resto
push
for some
right
gearing?
now, right? If you just wanted gear, you would have stopped at 10 to 12.
PvP, I'm
Even
doing
going
PvP.
beyond the popularity of specs just for the farm.
I mean,
keys,
PvE
but
too.
slightly higher. Arcane
I'm gonna do like
and
60
Arms
stuff. I don't want to
still
push
the
nothing. Yeah,
most played
I need to get
specs.
gear.
It's also interesting to see that right below them, the top three in the second tier that we put were Elemental, Devourer, and Balance Druid. And for now, at the very
PvP
least, on
healer lol,
release,
never tried it
Elemental,
yet.
Devourer, and Balance Druid are also the three
Well, probably have a
specs
spot.
amongst the most played. You
I
can
only
see
know like
that
5 people going right now.
Devourer and Balance are being
Unless K-Dot.
overtaken slightly
Someone.
by Beast Mastery and Retribution Paladin, which are right next to Elemental. But as soon as you start going higher in keys, we will likely see this trend in the following weeks. Specs like Ret and especially specs like BM are losing out more compared to these three casters we have mentioned. So it's likely that as you go higher in keys by next week, for example, when 14 to 15 plus will be the new standard, we will continue to see the stretching of the popularity of these specs. And the popularity that isn't as much surprising right now is the one that we put still high up next to the three casters in the second tier of DPS, which was Windwalker and Outlaw. Now, if you just were to look right now, Windwalker and Outlaw are pretty middling in terms of popularity. You would say actually even Outlaw is pretty low. You already see the slight difference in the very first few take of high keys, where
Damn it.
Windwalker and Outlaw are
Got to heal
higher
Milo the
than
goat yesterday.
average key levels
Oh, that's
being done
fire.
right now.
Hell yeah.
And it's likely that as
Coach
you
Milo.
start sort of settling on picking
How'd
a
it go?
physical
Carry me.
comp to push higher,
Carry
Love
me. What's
that
that,
resto
Jimmy?
shamans on
specs
top.
will gain more
Yeah.
value at
Resto Shaman's
high
gonna stay on
key
top
level.
too.
They weren't here. They weren't put next to Elemental, for example, because you expected Outlaw or Windwalker to have the same popularity of Elemental, but rather to have the same chance of pushing high keys.
Resto getting
in
nerfed.
just, a slightly
Got my
different
3K
Wow.
type of
yesterday.
comp. So
Oh,
for now,
fire.
At
Hell
Bow
yeah,
Tie
bro.
Patrick, love to see it.
overall keys
That's fire,
gains,
bro.
not surprising
Congrats,
at
bro.
all to see BM, a spec that was put at the very bottom of the tier of potential power levels, still very
Hard
popular
10%
at the
nerf
release
watch.
of the season, as pretty much Beast Mastery is at all seasons, Hunter being a very popular class.
It's not gonna
Since
happen,
right now,
J-Mac.
pretty much everyone has to do a bunch of Mythic
Brett's
Plus to
getting
get
buffed
gear,
again.
even if you want to be played a lot later on.
That's
For
why I
example,
am
even
pushing
Demo,
hard
we
this
put
week.
the Warlocks pretty
Hearth
reasonably
invite
no.
me, I
down
need
at
10.
the
Oh, they're
beginning
actually
of the
doing
season
10%?
because they
At
weren't
Josh
doing too
Mac
well,
Shush, hope
even
your
though
lock
now,
goes D tier.
technically, Demonology is in the top
I see a nerf
third
coming.
of most played specs. Well, of course, Warlock is a reasonably popular class. Once the season
Lock is
releases,
C tier.
you have to go and play Mythic Plus. So for now, you have a good amount of entries
Yeah.
overall for Demonology in Mythic Plus. But as soon as you start going higher
The
in
set
keys,
bonus 2 op.
you see the Warlocks in general losing more representation later on down the keys. So we couldn't say actually that after these
Lol,
first
it's
3
too
to 4
early to
days
say
of the
what's
release
going
of the
to
season
happen.
that we
Yeah,
can
it's hella true.
pinpoint to a particular surprise.
That
based
healing
on what
rain
we
thing
were
is dope.
expecting would have been popular. There were some
Look at the set
questions
bonus,
here and
it's
there,
wild.
like between
Yeah, I
the
know.
rogue
You drop it,
specs, which have eventually
healing rains
settled for
randomly.
being the most
Yeah,
played,
Josh was
even though
showing me.
right now technically the highest key level has been done by an assassination rogue. The other question was going to be whether or not we would have settled for an arms plus arcane plus third spec,
He'll drop D's on
likely
you.
being either elemental devourer or balance or a pure caster
The alternating
comp,
bubble every other
relegating
second
arms to
on
just
whoever is
being
in
part
totem
of
is
the melee
wild.
comp. Right now, this
Extra
one is also
healing
still
wave
to be
and
seen.
shields
We are
at 4
definitely
set.
leaning towards arms being the all popular spec in all type of compositions, but even then there will still be the question of who would join together with arms and arcane in the comp, as right now both Devourer and Elemental especially are doing quite well.
Yo,
As
wave.
we've seen, there is definitely
Shields
less
at
of a
4 set.
question
Oh,
when it comes to
shit.
tanks, where the
That's fire.
question seems to be
I
more
was saying
settled
bubble
for
every
Blood
other
DK.
second on
And the last
whoever
one
is
being
in
the
totem's
healers, where despite right now both healers being very even,
I like our Wrestle Shaman. Wrestle Shaman got a kick.
take over.
Wrestle Shaman's always my favorite. They get a kick, they can do damn, and they have less. Like, and they have Wind Fury. Like,
WTB Mythic 10
in
invites.
the more popular kind of comps, and Resto Shaman
hey.
stay in the more melee focused kind of comp. So for today, before we approach the weekend, where for sure we will get even more entries in Mythic Plus.
At Josh Mack,
this is
I got
what
you, babe.
We have in the first half of the first weekly reset of season 2.
Catch.
When it comes to the Mythic Plus flavors, there isn't too much really to look into for the moment.
We got raid
when it
tomorrow
comes to the raid.
too. J-Mac, you ready?
You
The
a real
guilds are still
friend.
stuck, clearing normal raids, and
I'm down to
some
run with you,
heroic
J-Mac.
bosses, which are turning out to be quite the higher challenge.
I'm doing some PvP
compared to the
today,
level of heroic
Also.
that we had in season 1. So the first impression of the raid level of specs is still under
I have 12
construction,
Rizzoli.
where we have already a
Nice.
better
Hell yeah.
picture when it comes to Mythic Plus. So
Fire,
for
bro.
today, on this Friday, this is all that we
Hope you
have.
get
I saw
rested.
someone who had
For now, for this first week
2,298
of
gear
season 2.
pieces and
Now,
everything
with
else
this
was
out of
over
the way, we can now,
311
get
yesterday.
right here. We are
That's
starting
fire.
Hey guys, I
by
have bad
thanking
hacking
everyone
micro
who
stuttering
watched
in
the video, together
12.1.
with,
Do
of
you
course,
have
everyone
any?
else
Yeah,
who is supporting
same.
community for free by
I do
liking and
too.
commenting down below, as well as subscribing to the channel.
Thank you for that video, Mr. IZEN.